Disney, AM 1260. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you back to Radio Disney's Backyard Show right here on Radio Disney AM 1260. That was me just doing my toucan impression. I don't know. Never mind.
It's a zoo in here. Oh my
goodness. Get down. Get that thing out of here. So having a good time on here today, learning all about why it's so important to read as a family and what you can get out of it. How often do you think a family should actually sit down and read together?
How long?
Yeah, like how long? Well, I guess it depends on the kid, as we were talking before. But more so, actually, what I meant to say was how often.
I would say, as often as you can, and to me that means just about every night. Mm-hmm. And I realize there's going to be challenges when the kids start to get older and stuff like that. But if you pick a book that a teenager's interested in and sit down and just co-read a chapter with them. They take a paragraph, you take a paragraph, and you're actually acting interested in what they're interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes miles
yeah.
for a child.
Right.
I think that's great.
For a teenager, yeah.
Now, what if our parents who are listening out there have a child who does a lot of reading for their schoolwork, and how do you think you can also get them to read as a fun activity?
Oh, I don't know. If you're familiar with the market right now, there is so many great books out there that just grab kids and just pull them in.
Yeah.
Back when I was growing up, we had the Tom Sawyers and, some of the classics, the Summer of the Monkeys, some of those books like that. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, I mean, it just seems like there's so many books that are tailored for children that are so good. And if you can captivate them with one of those books, they would sit on your lap for hours and let you read to them.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of sounds like maybe even include kids too in the selection process. Like go out to the library, go to the bookstore. You could look online for books, all kinds of ways. But it's almost like maybe get them excited about have them actually pick it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And a great starter to that conversation is what are some of your friends reading in school? Even if it's a kid that doesn't read a whole lot, besides what he has to. If you ask him what are some of his friends reading in school, he's bound to know what some of them, the books that they're hauling around with them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even at that, you can, if it's good enough for what their friends are reading and he knows they're reading it, he might take interest if you bring it home one day and say, hey, let's go ahead and read this book together.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very, very good idea. Very good idea. Peer pressure works in good ways, too.
In good ways, yeah.
Use it for your advantage. Huh?
That's right.
Now, besides obviously reading Christmas notes, do you have any suggestions on a book that your family may be currently reading or has just read that would be good for our listeners?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny you say that. That's exactly why I designed Christmas notes the way I did, and you guys have both read it, so you know that I have characters in there that hit every age group.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why I put the book together like that, so maybe they'd sit down on Christmas and read the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As a family. But the books that we're reading right now, there's one that my older daughter is interested in, Ranger's Apprentices. Have you heard about those? Anyway, they're a great book. They've captivated her attention, and it's got a lot of action in it. So my 5-year-old boy, he'll sit there and listen to it. My 8-year-old's interested in it because it's something Big Sister's reading, but she's not quite there yet.
Right.
And so we've just found that little niche in a book like that to hit the whole family. And there's books out there that do that. And like you said, the best place to go is like a library.
Yeah.
You go and just flip through some books. And you know what? Librarians are perfect for knowing what kind of books to read as a family.
That's a really good point. That's a very, very good point. There's been times when I was looking for something specific to read and or even like a feeling that I was looking for from a book sort of thing. And they really, without even looking anything up, they can just tell you the top of their head and everything. That's a great point. Very, very good point.
And if you go into a bookstore, if you find one of the I don't want to say older, the more mature ladies that works there, they're gonna have those books in their mind because more likely they're doing that with their families.
Yeah, yeah. Very good point. Those are two great resources. for people to do that.
When you're reading as a family, you were saying that a lot of times you're the one sitting down and reading, but then do you also then pass the book around to have the other family members read out loud?
Yeah, we do, especially with the older kids, because, we also want to use the time as to figure out where they're at in their reading and if
true.
they're comprehending and stuff. So we'll have them read, a couple paragraphs, and we'll take a couple paragraphs. And, it's interesting when you're reading a book and you start putting the emphasis into the conversations and, and you're starting to really get into the book, how they will change when they're reading and start putting emphasis in, and, the exclamations and stuff like that. It's kind of cool to see them transition over to that.
And then do you start to add in costumes and props and just put on a whole play?
It's showtime!
I'll be the horse.
We have done that before.
Eat your breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day.
Why are parents always saying that? Well, imagine you're a car. After a long night of sleeping, your fuel tank's empty. Breakfast is the fuel that gets you going so you can hit the road. Just like with other meals, try to eat a variety of foods, including grains, breads, cereals, fruits, vegetables.
This message brought to you by KidsHealth.org
And Radio Disney AM 1260.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Radio Disney AM 1260 Backyard Show. My name is Taylor.
My name's Jag.
And we are talking with author Clint Cox about the importance of reading as a family.
Question for you, Clint. Should you force reading on your child? What if it's something they just don't want to do? Is it something, because we're finding how important it is, the reasons to do it, how it can help you out. But, I mean, is it worth, should you force it on them?
No. The last thing you want to do is push a kid away. But there are some tactics that you can use to draw them in so they actually want you to read with them. And for instance, when I was a kid, to get me to sit down and read, it was not happening. It was tears and it was fussing. There was no way. Because it was just difficult for me. And at that point, I didn't really understand what was going on with the dyslexia. So my mom was really worried.
Right.
But, when she would sit down with one of my brothers or, my younger sister and start reading a book, slowly I would gravitate towards them, and sit there and listen to them.
Yeah.
And especially if they can find a book that they're interested in, what's to hurt if the parent goes and sits down and starts reading out loud?
Yeah, that's a good tip. Very, very good tip.
And, and then if the child's playing in the room or, somewhere else, why not go in the room where they're at, sit down and start reading out loud and perhaps pick a point of the book that's the most interesting or something like that that's going to captivate their attention.
Yeah.
And I think that you will end up drawing them in and letting them, they'll sit there and then, do that for a couple of days or something and then sneak in, hey, do you want to try and read this part right here? It's really good.
Yeah.
And sneak something like that in for them.
Yeah. And then at the end of the week, too, tell them they have to write a book report, and if they don't get an A, they're grounded. Round it out with that. Is that good?
That's always a winner.
No, don't do that, parents. We're just kidding. Great ideas, though.
Now, I'm wondering, Clinton, you're talking about how when you were younger, it was really hard for you to read. So how did that end up that now you're reading as a family and that you've even become an author?
Well, people don't really realize it because we're in the technological part of our lives, but reading is everything. Because to figure out the devices and stuff and the apps and the downloads, you've got to be able to read exactly what they are. So it's everything. And so so it's important to me to help my children to learn to read and to understand how important it is for that. Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, I guess I was just wondering more so than how you became an author from having such a difficult time of reading yourself. How did that then translate to you becoming a great author?
Okay, yeah, I knew I was going somewhere.
But I love the other answer too. So
yeah, so, but that's one of the reasons. So when I finally caught on to the reading, and it wasn't until I was an older teenager that I caught on to the reading. I actually learned Spanish, and that helped me a lot with my English reading.
Oh.
But so when I finally learned, I thought, you know what, I can do this. why couldn't I write a book? I've got an imagination that goes crazy, because dyslexic people usually do, and I just thought, why couldn't I do this? And I want to help other parents, get into the habit of helping their children learn to read. So I wanted to write a book that was family-oriented, that would cause a situation like that. And for the most part, it has. It's great.
Yeah. Will you be writing your book in Spanish next?
Translating.
Yeah.
If they let me.
It's a good idea.
We're going to get you across the world markets.
That's right. You're going international, studying today. That's great. Why, with reading and everything, and all that you do with your family, do you think you have any family members out there, your daughters, your sons, or anyone who might follow in your footsteps at becoming an author?
Oh, I am almost sure of it. My 2 older daughters are always writing little plays and little things, and I have to admit that the Disney imagination has helped them with that.
Yeah.
But they're always writing little plays and little things that they want to share with me, which makes me so happy.
Yeah, of course.
And during school they give them opportunities to write little books and essays and stuff like that. And they come home and they're just so excited to share them with me, because they know what I've been through, and that they're on the same path. And I love it. I love it.
That's great. That's great.
That might actually be a nice way that families can start doing a family night of reading together. Maybe the kids have brought home something from school that they've written, or maybe they, as a family, write their own story and then read it out loud. That'd be such a fun thing.
Yeah, it would be, to read it out loud to everybody and let everybody know what the individual child has done, and just kind of highlight it for a minute.
And you start having that pride in what you're doing and everything, and it's only going to want to make you do it more. So it's great. All really great tips. We're going to take a short break.